beauties, how are you doing? So this is going to be part 2. This part is going to be a little bit harder and a little bit more serious. Okay, so I'm not going to go into great detail with this. I am going to give you the PG version of the story. I was married at the age of 34, and for the next 7 years I was in a relationship with very little love. I loved him so much that I changed my hair constantly for his whims of what he was liking at that moment. I wore the clothes that he wanted me to wear. I didn't wear that much makeup because he did not like me to wear makeup. I got a job doing things that I knew was physically taxing on my body. I did things that I would normally not do because he wanted me to do them. And I didn't see my mother but like twice in 7 years. And I was cut off. I did all those things willingly. I'm not saying he forced it on me, because I willingly did all of that because I was in love with him. My ex is the most amazing person. He can do anything. Literally anything he does well. I used to say to him, which was probably not very fair to him, that he did everything well except be a husband. And I would joke and I'd like, maybe you should look up a YouTube video on how to be a husband. Those were probably things I should not have said, because that was wrong and that was like hurtful, I'm sure, for him. But this is my story, so this is my side, and then the third will be more of a look about the things that I did that was probably wrong for these situations. So I'm going to stop like talking about the things that I did wrong and leave it to the next video. Leading up to getting married, the November before, I had skin removal surgery. He was absolutely 100% against me getting this surgery. He loved my body the way it was. I had reached 400 pounds, so that was a total of 350 pounds that I had lost. And I had a massive apron, and as any big woman knows, that causes so much problems. Skin rashes, clothes buying issues, you know, back trouble, just your legs hurt. And it was literally just fat hanging because I had lost so much weight. And I had done all the weight loss naturally, by the way, just to put that in there. I was very active and I become a gym girl very fast. And I was doing it all in the aspects of having a baby. Nothing else was on my mind for the first 3 years I lived in New York, except to lose weight and to have a baby. But we weren't trying. We were actually preventing it because I would have been mortified to get pregnant before marriage. So we did keep that in wraps, for lack of better words. But we also had some stuff going on with our church, and because of the things that we volunteered for, it didn't look good for us to be living together. So we took a vow of abstinence, and for a year, from Valentine's Day to the next Valentine's Day, which went a little past, but from Valentine's Day to our marriage, for a year, we did not have intercourse. We did not have sex in any way. We would cuddle and hug and stuff like that, but nothing beyond that. And that really destroyed our relationship, because it was just something that we had, that we fought like cats and dogs, and then we would make up. And we had that, and it was beautiful, like weird, sick thing that we had. But then when we didn't have it, we fought like cats and dogs, and then fought like cats and dogs more. So it became kind of a bit of a constant argument. So that was like not good. And then when I had my surgery, it really got worse, because he hated the fact that I had the surgery. And I remember the first time he saw me after the swelling had gone down, he just had no desire to look at me. None. And I was devastated. My self-esteem went from like 60, 70 down to 20, I guess you could say. Maybe we should even go lower to a 10. I had no self-confidence. I hated my body, and I was down to 360. I loved that I could go shopping, and so soon my shopping addiction became worse and worse and worse and worse, because all I could get, only joy I could get from having this new body that I could move in, that I could do things, that I wasn't exhausted, was shopping and the gym. And those are the two things I did all the time. And then I had school that I was still doing, because my husband wanted me to have a bachelor's degree, I guess, so he could have a dumb wife. I honestly believe that was the reasoning behind that, because, you know, he was going to be a doctor. He's going to be a doctor. And his every moment that we were together was, how is this going to make it better for him to get to the place that he needs to be with his future career? Our whole life, every move we made, every choice, every decision was always how to improve his life so he could be a doctor. Well, so by the time we got married, I had lost all my self-esteem. I felt like it didn't matter what I wore down the aisle, because he wasn't gonna like it. So I picked a dress that just kind of fell into my lap. I've told you the story. And I felt beautiful. I cried when I first put it on, because I don't know, something just happened, and I was never seen myself as beautiful until that moment. And it was funny, because when I went back to try my dress on, I thought I would have lost that feeling of being beautiful, because of now of the way at that time my boyfriend saw me now. But when I put my dress back on, I looked at it and I was like, oh, you really can't tell that I don't have a tummy. In fact, the way it pooches at this one part, it even looks like I have a tummy a little bit. And then the best thing in the world happened. So I thought, the dress was too big. And she's like, oh my, this is going to be a problem, because we don't have time to reorder, and it's clearly too big for you. And I was like, it's okay, I'll gain some weight. I know that woman probably fainted on the, like, died inside a little bit when I said that, because, like, you know, here I am, a 360-pound woman with a dress that's too big, and I'm saying, oh, I'll gain weight, don't worry about it. And So I did. I actually put on like almost 30 pounds so my dress would fit. And I only had like mm, four, 4 months, 3 months. I think I only had 3 months. So anyway, the day we got married was beautiful, but I kept waiting that day. I kept waiting and waiting and waiting to hear one thing come from my husband's mouth, and I never heard it. He never told me that I looked pretty. He never told me that I looked nice. And then that night I asked him, so how did I look today? And he said, you looked okay. And I was like, oh. It was not a magical night, let's just say. So anyway, fast forward, we go on our honeymoon, and that was fun and amazing, but romantic, no. It was more like two friends going on a really awesome trip together, and it was magical. It was amazing, and it was probably one of the best things I will ever do in my life, but it was just not romantic. Got home and we discussed getting pregnant, and he didn't want to get pregnant. I was totally healthy. My doctors all said I was in great condition. Go be, marry, have babies. But we didn't. We, in fact, very seldomly had relations, and then also when we did, it was protected. So no babies, no chances. And that was really, really hard for me. 2 weeks after coming home from our honeymoon, I had to use his phone for the day because mine wasn't working, and he got a text from a girl that he was supposed to go to the gym with. And she didn't know he was married, and she most certainly didn't know that it was not a date, which was his story at the time, and that he thought it was just a hangout. I learned later that it was a date, but I just let it go. I was like, oh, it was just some girl, and she was misinformed. She didn't realize he just wanted to be friends, whatever. So our life together was full of moves, school. I worked 2 jobs the first 2 years of our marriage, and I have to say we had a pretty happy, decent life those first 2 years. We had this little apartment, and it was in the center of all our friends and our church and high school, and it was just perfect, actually. And I loved my job, one of my jobs, and then the other one was very taxing on my body, and it ended up destroying me, I guess you could say. So the 3rd year of our life together, I was dealing with a fractured spine. Top off me having a fractured spine, I then have a wreck and destroy my car because I was trying to go to my second job with a fractured back, and so then that really put me into a bad position. I was high on pain medicine most of the time. I literally could do nothing but lay and like recline, taking baths, using the bathroom, washing my hair, cooking. All of these things become almost impossible we had to leave our little apartment that we loved so much, and we spent time at his parents' house. We spent time at our best friend's house, that it was like level, and I didn't have to do stairs to get into. And we spent the next year being like nomads, really, and not really calling anywhere home. We did finally get this little apartment that was just really tiny and way too expensive for what it was. And he was with the fire department at this point. He was never home. I was always by myself. My friends at this point had just gotten tired of dealing with me not being able to do things, I think. And I was alone. I didn't really have anything or anybody. And that year was really hard because when I did see my husband, he was telling me that I wasn't a good person, and he used words that I can't say on the internet. And he would call me a whore for wanting to sleep with him. He didn't want to sleep with me, and I was dead set on, even in pain, sleeping with my husband because I didn't want to be a total failure as a wife. But that year, it was just doctor's appointments and a lot of crying. I would cry. I'd call my mom and I would be like, what do I do to make him love me? Why does he hate me so much? And of course, I guess I couldn't see his point of view at the moment. But then we left that apartment, went to his parents, then went back out to our friend's house. And that's where I would stay when my husband would have to do things for days on a time with the fire department, or he'd have to go out of town or do school stuff. I would just stay at my friend's house because it was more convenient with my back, not having to do stairs, and I felt safer there. He had to go out of town with the fire department on a trip. It was an expo thing in Vegas. And when he got back, I can remember thinking before he left for that trip, we've had a whole month and we've gotten along so good. We've gone to the movies together. You know, we've had dinners together. We are just not fighting. We've gone for drives again because we used to go for drives all the time, and it just stopped when my back got messed up, and then it never, it never started again. And it was like the last 2 months had been so good between me and him. So when I was packing his clothes for his trip, I wrote him a love note for every day that he was gone and put it in each little section of clothes because I would fold his clothes for the day. And we didn't have a lot of contact when he was on that trip. And so the night he come back, he did something so weird. He wanted to sleep on the floor beside me because at this friend's house it was only a single bed and we usually slept in different rooms. But this night he wanted to sleep on the floor beside me because say he missed me. That's the one thing that I still don't understand why he did that. I don't know. But I felt so loved in that moment. I was like, oh, he does love me. He missed me. Maybe the love notes did something. So he had forgotten something, or I don't even remember really why, but he went back to the hospital the next morning, or the fire station. I'm not sure which. And my life kind of ended that day because I found a tablet and I found where he had been in a year-long relationship with a woman around my size, my age, just extremely wealthy. They had been a long distance, but she apparently had come to visit, and to this day he says that their relationship was minimum, and I don't know if I ever believed him fully. But he told her he loved her. I read that, and her story to me, because I contacted her almost immediately, was that she didn't know he was married, which she lied, because I went back and read text and I read messages, and she asked, "How's your wife?" I still don't understand it. Let me just say this next part to get it out of the way. I was not in a good mental state when this happened. I had been sick with my back for over a year and a half at this time. I didn't have a permanent home. I was miserable with the fact that I didn't think my husband loved me. He didn't want to touch me even. I was ashamed that I wasn't able to work. I was sad that we hadn't tried to have children in those first years, and now I thought my chances were gone completely because of my back. And after I spoke to her, to the woman he cheated with, I went into my friend's kitchen and I took a knife, and it became a joke afterwards, but not at that moment. I was literally sawing on my wrist. His knives were dull. I obviously just didn't know where to look, I was told. But the fact that there was a dull knife is the only reason that I'm alive. Because when my husband walked in the door, he found me cutting my wrist. And he screams, "Oh my God, Evie, what are you doing?" And all I can do is throw the knife at him and say, "I'm not doing it, you did this," and go into the other room. And he's, "What are you talking about?" He's crying, he's mad, I'm crying. "What do you think?" And I just throw his tablet at him. And he goes, "Oh." And I don't need to go into more detail of what happened after that because it doesn't really matter. All that matters is he did say that he didn't love her and he felt guilty. I asked him why he didn't break it off sooner if he didn't love her and he didn't want to hurt me. And he said, "I didn't want to hurt her. So the option of that was to hurt me." Okay, I see you. I see what I am to you. So we tried. We tried to pull it back together. So after he cheated, we were living at his parents' and things were very rocky. He was saying with his mouth that he wanted to try. And in my delusional love for him, I was like, "I will stay with you on one condition. that we try to get pregnant. So I went to the doctor and I did all the things that I needed to. I was giving myself injections twice a day. And this went on for about 4 or 5 months while we were still living with his parents. And then the insurance stopped paying for the injections. And because we were not having relations enough to produce a child. So I was like, why am I putting my body through these injections when we're not trying? So after that, we had some really bad fights, and some of those were very violent. I should have left him. I should have left him the day I found out he cheated on me. Because I would have left not being guilty of anything. I loved my husband so much that the violent parts didn't matter to me whatsoever. It didn't even affect me. I do come from a background of abuse, so that might be why. But he decided, for my benefit, he wanted to move us back to Long Island so we could work on our marriage. So we did. He sacrificed a lot. I sacrificed. We moved back to Long Island. We had nothing. And I think by that point, our friends were just like over us, and we just really didn't ever fit back in. And it was kind of sad. I mean, once in a while we did hang out, but it was just not the same. And I never got back into church because I didn't have a way to get there. And I was fully dependent on my husband for entertainment, to get out of the house, whatnot. And he wanted to rest because he was tired. He was a medical student. And I wanted to do things when he was home. I wanted to watch movies or go out or, And we started arguing and bickering and things like that. And family things were going on. And the only thing that kept me alive after marriage was I was 100% an aunt. I love my nieces and nephews so much. I will never stop calling them my nieces and nephews because my love for them kept me alive. My love for them kept me in that marriage. My love for them, even to this day, puts a smile on my face because at the end there was 5 of them, but up until the last 3 years there was only 4, and I worshipped the ground that those 4 kids walked on. And then when the baby came, I was head over heels in love with her too, and it was just magical being their aunt. It was me. And I don't even know how to live without them. Seeing them grow up. And now I miss the baby. The baby of all of them now. She will not remember me. She will not know how much she was loved. But I have to tell you about the love for them because they're part of the reason I stayed. After the violence happened, before we moved back out to Long Island, I started my Instagram. And I wanted friends. That was all I wanted at that time. Just people to talk to. But I started getting attention from men, and I started talking to men, and it was oh, show me attention. I'm going to make my husband jealous by this. It was just not good. Like, really not good. I was very, very sick and in a very wrong place of mind. But I never lied. I always said, oh, I am talking to this guy, or I'm talking to this girl, or, oh, I'm, you know, I have friends on the internet, blah, blah, blah. And it did make my husband mad. He wasn't jealous. He was mad that I had friends and that I was talking to people. After we got back out to Long Island, you know, like I said, just things were different. And we did have a lot of good days. We did. We would go places. We would watch movies. We'd go out to dinner. We made an effort to have a date night. We did a lot with my brother-in-law's family. They lived close, so we were always together and always doing things. And a lot of stuff with the family was going on with the kids. And I got pregnant. And then I wasn't pregnant. I had a very painful miscarriage. And that first January that we had in the Long Island apartment again, we were having a fight. And this was the moment that I said it was over in my head. He told me that I deserved to lose my baby. Not our baby, my baby. That I would not have been a good mother. That I was too fat to have a baby. And that I deserved it. It was my fault. I wanted his baby more than anything in the world. I didn't want just my baby. I wanted his baby. He never understood that. And at that moment, I knew it was over for us. I couldn't be with someone that could say that to me. I kept trying. Up until the very last moment of not trying. I had a second miscarriage. I was at my mom's when I had it. It was really bad. I was really sick. I thought I was gonna die. He come got me. I just wanted him to hold me. That never happened. It was so over. It was so apparent. And I had somewhere I could go. For the last year, I had had multiple chances to leave. But I didn't, because I kept hoping something would change. I kept weighing out the loss of his family, the loss of my nieces and nephews. It doesn't matter the way I feel when I'm just with him. It matters how I feel when I'm with them. I want to be there with them. I don't want to leave them. And then more and more, I heard that in my head. These kids that you love so much, that you're staying here for in this marriage that you clearly aren't loved in, will grow up and they won't be here. And then all you will have will be nothing. You'll have a marriage where your husband hates you. You won't have a child because you'll have nothing. This past summer was one of the best summers I've had in a long time. We basically stayed at my brother-in-law's house constantly. We moved back to Queens and we did a construction project, a redo project, which I've showed y'all on here. It was a good summer, except that it wasn't. Every moment this past summer that I spent with my nieces and nephews, I kept thinking, is this the last time I'll do this with them? Is this the last time I'll see them? Is this the last time I'll feel their hugs? Because I didn't know if I could leave them, honestly. I backed out of it once. I told my husband I was leaving him, and for a week I cried and sobbed, and I also had some medical stuff going on at that time, so it ended up that I didn't leave. Also, I do believe him acting the way he acted, it kind of sparked something in me of, oh, he cares. And I know this doesn't sound like the woman that I portray on Instagram or that I have been trying desperately to be, because it's not. It's like I'm two different people. When I was with my husband, I was this person that has this story. But when I'm with my friends, even with the girl, you know, the nieces, with my sister-in-law, with strangers, I'm the person that you see on Instagram. I'm this person that I portray. I am the person that I try to always be honest. It is literally like I'm two different people. And that you can't be two different people. It just can't work. It's not supposed to be that way. And the more and more I started trying to hide certain things, the more and more I knew I had to get out. Because I couldn't live a double life. I couldn't live a double story. So how I left. The final decision. A series of events happened. We were living in the basement of his parents' house, and I cut my finger. And because I am on blood thinner, I bled a lot. Way more than you should bleed with a cut. And I almost cut my thumb off, in fact, and the top of it off. I was bleeding and bleeding, and I couldn't get him. And I called and called and called, and it was like almost 45 minutes before he even called me back. And I kept thinking, I know he has his phone. I know he has his watch. Like, I know he sees me calling. I know he sees me texting. And I was so scared. There was so much blood. I couldn't deal with it. I was terrified. He ended up coming home like really late that night, taking care of my finger. And then I hadn't seen my friends for months, and there was going to be a get-together, and I had planned it, and he knew it, and he knew that he was going to take me, but that he was going to have to go to school and come back. And instead, he told me I couldn't go, and he went and hung out with his friends, and they drank, and then he come home and he treated me like dirt. So I told him, I'm leaving and I'm not coming back. Don't try to talk me out of it. And he decided that getting drunk and being horrible to me was the best option in that moment. So he did. And thankfully he did, because I don't think if he hadn't, I would have had the strength to walk out the door. The next day, I mean, I don't know what occurred in his mind. He never really thought that I was going to leave him, because he knew how much I loved him and how much I tried and how much I didn't want a divorce. And he woke up the next morning. He told me, oh, I'll see you later. I said, okay, see you later. And he's like, I love you. And I was like, I love you too. Because I did. I do love him. It's crazy. But he walked out the door and I started crying. And I called my mom and I was like, what do I do? And she's like, I think you know what you should do. And then one of my good friends, she was texting me constantly. And then I was texting Jeremy, and I texted Jeremy finally and said, okay, come get me. I want you to come get me. Come get me. And within the next 6 hours, I packed up everything that I could get out on my own, which was basically my clothes and my makeup and my medicine. And I left. I called my sister-in-laws both and let them know, because I felt they deserved to know. And I just left. He would have never let me leave. It would have never happened. If I tried to look him in the face, he would have done God knows what. And you just have to trust that when I say that, I know for a fact he would never have let me leave. That's the crumble of what I thought was going to be forever. The next video will be more his side and what I did wrong, because I did do wrong. I did a lot of things wrong. And I think every story deserves all three sides. And obviously he's not going to come on here and tell you his. So I just have to do the best I can in the representation of him. I think I can do a pretty good job of that because we knew each other really well. When you are with someone and depend solely on someone for so long, even when there's secrets, you still become really close. And I knew him, I still know him better than anybody else does. And through everything that he has done to me, everything that he's said to me, everything he's taken from me, I will still sit here and tell you that he is going to be an amazing doctor. Not just because he's smart. He cares about making a difference in the world, and he has a very good ability to see someone's side to the story and not just assume things. I have no doubt that he will go on and to keep hitting milestones in his life that he wants and he sets, because he is such an achiever. I've never met someone that was such an achiever the way he was, and he loves his family so much. I always said it was school, his family, his friends, his hobbies, his games, whatever. And then somewhere at the bottom was me. And when you know that about somebody, and if you can't handle that fact of being at the bottom, then you need to find someone, something that makes it different. So that's the end of this story. As always, remember, be your own beautiful.